All right, the time has come to announce the winner for this here Play Booster Box of Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Thank you to everybody who's entered and subscribed and joined our Discord. It's been so fun getting to meet all of you guys and hang out with you over the last week since the giveaway has been going. Man, it's been such a fun one. I'm so excited to give this away. Let's go ahead and get into it. We are rocking about 76 entries on this. And again, it's for the whole box. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel and see who's going to win the booster box. Come on. Spin that wheel. The winner is Zepbeast from our YouTube comments. Congratulations, you've just won the whole box of Outlaws of Thunder Junction. We hope you enjoy it. And if you want to be a part of any more of our giveaways, find out more about what we're doing, join all the discussion, hang out with us, join our Discord. Most of these entries were just directly from being a part of our Discord. So go ahead and jump down there and you'll know about the next one that we do. Let's go ahead and get into the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Magic fans and newcomers alike, welcome, one and all, to the MTG Thoughtcast. I'm your host, Joseph Rubino. Somewhere else on this screen is my brother in blood, John Kendall. John, what's up, buddy?
Yeehaw, we're here.
We're yeeing, we're hawing, we're rounding up, partners.
I should have seen the yeehaw coming, but I didn't. And
we needed to have a little yeehaw counter.
We didn't do it last time, but maybe this one. Yeah. Hello, we're back with more Thunder Junction. So
yes, we are. And
certainly
the tootinest partner of us, Jared Bobier. How's it going, buddy?
What's up? I'm doing great.
My guy out here rooting and out here tooting. You doing good, dude?
I'm doing fantastic, bro.
Nice.
Really good. Glad to be here.
Well, are you guys excited to talk about some Thunder Junction? This is our main set episode today.
Yeah, we're in it. Talk about the good stuff.
Absolutely. But we need to talk about the even better stuff real quick, which is liking, commenting, and subscribing to tell the robots that you like us and that you want to see us more often. If you want to hear more about things like our giveaway that we just finished up, if you want to see more of our hot takes about new sets and commander sets and all of those, just go ahead and hit all the buttons down there and you'll start seeing us more often. That's great. Also, do you want direct access to us for absolutely free? Join our Discord. We're hanging out there all the time. Also linked down below. You get some extra bonuses for when we do giveaways. You get deck building advice from us. You get to hear John's hot takes all the time. So go ahead and jump in our Discord down below. And we can jump into the real discussion starting now. Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Let's get... Let's go.
We do the entire set, every card in 15 minutes. Just light speed. Just absolutely.
It's just my longest boy ever. Guys,
it's just 45 minutes of us going card. Yeah, card. Yeah.
No. Ooh.
Our gut instinct reactions. I like it.
Yes.
Sick, dude.
Should we hit mechanics?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, let me do... Guys, I'm trying to do the intro, guys. Sorry. So, Outlaws of Thunder Junction has been out for a couple of weeks now at this point. I know I've had a good chance to play with it a bit, both in draft. I've been watching a lot of Commander videos for it. I've been watching a lot. This has been my most anticipated set this year. Do you guys feel the same? Have you not been excited about it? What are we thinking?
Oh man, I've been stoked about it since we kind of saw the release schedule from last year, and I think it's cool to put all the villains in one zone and just make them duke it out. That's a really cool story.
Literally have them showdown.
Yes, that's cool.
John, I need not ask your opinion, but Please tell me how you feel about Thunder Junction.
Oh, it's so cool. It was it was a chance of like circumstances as well, but this probably may have been something I was going to end up doing one way or the other, but this is one of the first sets in a very long time I actually bought a booster box of.
Oh, nice.
I haven't purchased booster boxes of Magic in quite a long time, but just due to the circumstances of like, how jam-packed this set was.
Oh yeah,
both for standard play and then like obviously as commander people, when a set is jammed full of legendaries, that's something to observe very well for deck building purposes.
Of course. There's something like 50 legendaries in this set, which I still feel like is a bit too high. I think that they're still trending too high for legendary creatures, but I mean, in a set full of villains, what are you going to do?
By my understanding, this is not the norm, right? Like supposedly sets going forward that will start trending back down again, maybe with like the highest we might see is like the sort of draft like signpost uncommon legendary creature.
Yeah, so like to 20% feels much more reasonable than the 50 from this one. It's funny because they both stated that there would be less legendary creatures in sets going forward and that there would only be one planeswalker per set going forward, and they broke both of those rules immediately.
It's
with 2 planeswalkers and 50 legends.
WotC just out here committing crimes on theme.
On theme. The real Outlaws were WotC.
Right.
And the Pinkertons
along the way. Sorry.
Are we saying that they are the assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, or warlocks? Because that is the Outlaws.
Yes.
Of your Outlaws of Thunder Junction. So I'm just gonna go ahead and brief us here real fast on some of the some of the set mechanics that come around with this set. Outlaws itself then is obviously the biggest, one of the bigger themes that is part of this here. It's a very simple one to pull across, and I like the sort of like broad stroke that it opens up. Creature abilities and certain spells and things of that nature, they care about if you control or have cast or attacked with an outlaw. And an outlaw is a sub-parameter of creatures that if you have a creature that is an assassin, a mercenary, a pirate, a rogue, or a warlock, it is considered an outlaw. And I like that little category. Like, I don't think I would want to either say add or remove like any of those. I don't know, like either you have any ideas on anything that could potentially should have been added as like an outlaw?
Nah.
I've not thought about that as a question. So my head, I can't like generate all the different magic types, but maybe
I guess on a technicality, rebels should probably be outlaws as well, since like they're literally against it. But it's its own thing. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
Skin and they have their own things. So I think they did great. I on record, absolutely love these like groups of creature types. It just makes it way more fun than just like, oh, I'm building a fairy deck, so I need to jam every fairy that's ever been printed into one deck. You actually can just go like, oh my God, this creature just happens to be a rogue, or this happens to be an assassin. Let me throw it in here, and then it'll work with all of these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, it opens up to a little bit of like more creative deck building into the future, because like if you have sort of typal matter synergy types of cards, but they are stapled onto other creatures that you normally wouldn't put into that typal matter. So like as an example for myself, I'm planning an upcoming the Assassins deck with the upcoming Universes Beyond Assassin's Creed. But there are cards in this set that care about, there are cards in this set that care about Outlaws, and Assassins are within that parameter. So I'm going to be sort of like experimenting around with some of the pieces I have there. It's like, okay, this creature may not exactly be an assassin, but he has a Outlaws matter synergy that would work really, really well with the build. So it opens up a little bit of creativity on how you deck build.
I think that's so cool, because I'm not a fan of typal strategy, just because they tend to feel the same every time you build them.
Right.
Which is like, that's intentional. That's what those are supposed to do. So I'm not knocking that as a typal problem. It's actually a typal success. But I don't like a linear play style. That's boring to me. That's why most of us play Commander in the first place. So that like coalescing multiple types of creatures together and making them playable together without having to change their own identities is sick. That creates so much design space there that they get to work
really
with,
cool.
which is cool.
It's very fun.
So what are these outlaws? What are these outlaws out here doing here? Well, they're probably out here committing some crime. Yes. And that's what we get to do now. Crime wins. Says the MTG Thoughtcast. Slap that on a tee.
We love crime.
Is there
crime always pays?
Is there any mechanics in the game that you guys think should have been listed as a crime in addition to what's there?
Listen, there's a whole, everyone has made that whole chart of like, oh, whoops, well, Wrath of God, I guess, just isn't a crime.
Armageddon,
yeah, exactly.
Not a crime.
How could they have like typed that in there though? Like, I think that they did a great job at, because it basically is like, if you're targeting something of your opponent's or your opponent or anything they control or anything they own, it's a crime. Like, doesn't matter.
Yep. Let me read it specifically. Yeah. Anything like committing a crime, the effect says is if you target an opponent, anything they control and or their graveyard, like a card in their graveyard, I guess I should say specifically, that is considered committing a crime.
Yes.
And so it has some weird, it can sometimes have some weird timing things. Cause like if you have like, say, a permanent on board that says when you commit a crime, those things fire off before whatever you are using to target fires. Right. So like your crime committing stuff goes onto the stack above whatever, say, your removal spell or your graveyard hate piece or your counter spell, stuff like that. All of those begin firing off before your actual spell does itself. So that's important for timing restrictions.
Yeah, I had a rules clarification actually that you guys might be able to help with. Ooh, can you respond? It is like the crime its own thing that you can respond to?
It's not. So you targeting something basically sends a signal of I've committed a crime to any of your permanents that say when you commit a crime.
I got you.
It's actually very similar to the coalesced like creature types where all they're doing is just coalescing a bunch of targets together. So it's an additional triggered.
It's like a grouping. It's another grouping of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice. The crime committing timing is really going to depend what you already have down in place. So if you have like a creature that says, oh, when you commit a crime, loot, right? If they're already in play and then you commit the crime, then yes, then that creature's ability will go onto the stack. But if you currently have nothing down in play that directly cares if you've committed a crime, you do the effect that says you commit your crime and then play the thing after, the game still sees that you have done a crime that turn. So the actual act of committing the crime, there's no responses available during that time period. But once permanents or effects down in play want to see that you've already committed a crime, then they go onto the stack just like any other ability.
Nice. That's good to know.
Yeah. Honestly, this whole set is just full of masterpieces of design. Like the design team absolutely popped off on the set.
Yeah. Do you want to? Oh, sorry, Jared. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I love these kind of mechanics. I don't think any of them are stepping on toes of anything else.
No,
which is sick.
Right.
It's funny because none of it's like the two things we've talked about are not new things. They've just grouped a bunch of things together and said, here's some new mechanics.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Certainly the new one that definitely has some wide open opportunities is going to be Spree.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of Spree, it's basically kicker. You guys remember that joke cover? Like everything is kicker.
Everything's kicker. Everything is either kicker or horsemanship. This is kicker.
Yeah. This is super kicker.
Spree is really good. It basically is a new version of modal spells that allows you to. You have to pay the cost of most of those spree spells are really cheap, like 1 CMC to just play the spell. But they all have additional costs that you can choose to also pay to get additional abilities.
Real quick rules clarification that I was going to bring up for that. You have to pick one of the additional costs. You can't just spend one to do nothing.
Got you.
So it came up for me. So surely it's come up for somebody else because I was playing like a prowess deck in draft and was like, oh, cool. I'm just going to like play one for this spree spell and do nothing with it. And I realized that I couldn't. So
yeah, because if the text box for the spree itself said if you can choose up to one or more, then you would have the capability of casting for free. But because the text box says you have to choose one of the additional costs, you're required to pay the mana cost that the spell is itself, and at least one of the the additional costs that the text box says.
Yeah. What they've basically done is they've formatted the fuse cards from Return to Ravnica in a much more legible way, and in a way that they can expand it to having multiple additional cards on top of it. So like Insatiable Avarice is one that I was going to talk about when we talk about cards, but I can just talk about it now. It's a single black for a sorcery with spree that it's +2 generic. So for 3 mana, you search your library for a card, shuffle and put that card on top. Or for black and then black, you can make a target player draw 3 cards and lose 3 life. Or for 2 black, you can do both of them. So again, it's formatted in a way that's much more similar to the fuse cards than it is like a charm or anything like that.
That card is sick, by the way. Also,
so good.
That art, I don't know, for some reason the art on that card
absolute flames, dude.
That is sick.
So good. Anyway, that's Spree. It's a great ability.
Yeah. Our Outlaws need some friends to help them escape after we've committed our crime sprees. And what better way to represent that in the Wild West world than with your assorted horseback friends, the saddle.
Yes.
Saddle up. So this is kind of like a two-parter sort of thing. Certain creatures have a new added creature type called mounts, and that indicates that the creature itself is going to have saddle in its text box ability. For lack of a better term, saddle kind of acts the same way as crewing, except the mount is always a creature, unlike vehicles that turn themselves on and off from being creatures per se. And so far, at least anyway, all that saddling a creature does is gives that creature itself, the mount that has saddle, some kind of bonus, either when it becomes saddled for the first time or when it attacks or when it deals combat damage. If the game checks to see that it is saddled, you get an extra bonus out of there.
Yep.
These are great.
And generally the costs are kind of like crew as well, where like saddling up a creature costs less as far as creature's power than the actual mount itself is. So you're not directly all the time losing power by throwing a creature saddled onto something else. There are instances here or there, depending on the power level of the mount itself, of like, hey, you have to lose a little bit of extra combat points of damage to saddle this thing up, but the benefit that you can get out of it should counterbalance that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Gitrog with saddle is crazy.
Dude, I literally have that on my notes to talk about. It's so cool.
Yeah, the card is, every time they print a Gitrog variation, I feel like it just gets power crept every time.
100%.
Pretty whack.
They also, just a note on saddling as well. I'm trying to pull up the horse that has it.
Oh, the red one?
Yes.
The speed.
What's it called? I need to find it. Oh, yeah, Calamity.
Calamity.
So
that's sick.
Similar to vehicles, you can over crew. You can over saddle. So like Calamity has saddle 1. The way the ability goes on the stack is you tap any number of creatures to get up to or above that power. So like you could tap down your entire board if you wanted to and just say, I'm saddling with all of these, or I'm crewing or whatever. What they've done with Calamity is they've given a benefit on over crewing, because Calamity has saddle 1, and then when it attacks, you choose a non-legendary creature that saddled it, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of it, and sack that token at the beginning of the next end step. Repeat this process once. So if you've saddled with 2 creatures, you can make a copy of each of those creatures. Or if you've saddled with 1, you can make 2 copies of the single one. But it's just... It's again just masterful design space where they're giving you some extra bonuses for playing creatures that might not have benefits on attacking. Like, it's almost banding. Are we bringing back banding?
So we didn't get the horsemanship, but we got pseudo banding.
We got horse banding.
Horse banding, yeah. No, the saddling is really cool. It hasn't, I guess, being the anti, it hasn't gone. It's not my favorite of this set so far. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of it yet to justifiably say like there's probably like maybe the 2 legendary ones that do the saddle. I think the rest of them are kind of okay, you know. But like, it's certainly it's especially cool in like the limited formats, especially like that, right? Like it's super neat. You can get a lower power creature to go through. Yeah.
Yes.
They're really neat.
There's a 2-drop that's a 3/1 that when it attacks while saddled, it gains first strike. That is ridiculous in draft. Green white mounts is a real deck in limited.
Exactly. All right. And then our last mechanic of the set is plot. Probably, I don't know, would this be the most complex of the mechanics in the set? It has some weird nuances, but it's really neat.
Complicated when we start talking about like Fibblethip Lost on the Range, where it's like plotting from the top of your deck. Like there's also weird things like Aven Interrupter that like plot a spell from the stack. Like, so I think it's very neat. This is actually my favorite mechanic from this set is plot. Because it forces you into a very specific style of play that's just different. Like you wouldn't choose to pay mana for your spell that you're not getting that turn. Go ahead and talk. Yeah.
Oh, did you want to describe it? You said you like it. Go for it.
Yeah. So plot. Let's just start by talking about cards that have plot naturally on them. They'll have a plot cost. You pay that cost, exile it from your hand. Notably, plot cannot be responded to. So it's a new special game action of plotting a card. So you exile it face up for its plot cost. And then on a later turn, so you can't do this the same turn. On a later turn, you're able to cast that card at sorcery speed for free. So what it basically sets up is these huge turns where you've gone like, I'm going to plot this card and then just pass. And then the following turn, you get that card for free, and then all of your mana is still up to continue to doing things. So like the absolute menace of plot right now is Slickshot Show Off, is ravaging every single format that it's playable in. 60 card formats. I don't know if it's good in Commander, but because it has plot, but also has mega prowess. So like turn 2, you play it. Sorry, turn 2, you plot it, and then you just pass. You don't get it that turn. The following turn, you play a 3rd land, you get down the Slickshot Show Off, and then you just play 3 cantrips, and all of a sudden on turn 3, you're swinging with a 7/2. Like, it's ridiculous. So that's kind of the benefit of plot is you can set up these huge explosive turns with it. So that's plot cards. There's also, I think it's really just Fibblethip Lost on the Range that says you can look at the top card of your library at any time and you can plot that card. Its plot cost is its mana cost. So that's a little simpler. It's very cool. It's really good card advantage. I don't like that it's a 1/1. But it also has Ward 2, like, because that's
I like Ward 2 on that.
Same. Yes. That's a card that needs to be protected.
I was
Ward 2 should not be on Voya. It should be on
you can put Ward 2 on 1/1s and 2/2s. 100%. Anything beyond that, stop doing it.
Stop it. Get some help. Johnny, put the Michael Jordan name in here.
Because Orcish Bowmasters exists.
Yes.
Things like a legendary creature that's a 1/1
on Orcish Bowmasters, dude.
No. But just because that card's in this format, like having a 1/1 legendary creature that can literally
I didn't even
die to a Bowmaster trigger is like so dumb. So
we're really starting to breach into like Yu-Gi-Oh territory of where like they've just crept the power level so much and like now everything has ward. So they're starting to print things that like in MKM, so many things said this card is uncounterable because there's so much ward around. So now we're just like reaching into that, and like Krenko's Buzz Crusher just didn't target so that you could get around hexproof lands. Like stop printing ward and stop printing hexproof, and then we don't have to have these novels. That's my soapbox. We're back to plot. So that's Fibblethip is plotting from the top of your library. And then Aven Interrupter is the other one I wanted to talk about. So it's 1 white and a white for a 2/2 bird rogue with flash and flying. When it enters the battlefield, exile target spell, it becomes plotted. So, and then spells your opponents cast from graveyards and from exile cost 2 more to cast.
Oh, there's one of the blue-red legendaries. Also, whenever you cast a spell. Oh, yeah, I think it's Breaches the Blastmaker.
No, it's
not him. That's the card I was reading earlier. That when you said we're getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! Territory, I was thinking of Breaches because that card.
It's that quick shot one.
Yes,
I think. Yeah, cast an instant or sorcery instead of resolving it to your graveyard. Yeah, instead of resolving it to your graveyard, it goes to plot.
I'll pull it up.
Lila, Undefeated Slick Shot is who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, dude. Tell me about it.
It's prowess for a 1 blue-red legendary creature human rogue, so it fits into the Outlaws. 3/3, and it says whenever you cast a multicolored, specifically instant or sorcery spell from your hand, exile it instead of putting it into your graveyard as a resolves. And if you do, it becomes plotted. So it just lets you cast it twice. That's dope.
The following turn with prowess. So like you play your charms or whatever, and then all of a sudden you get to do it again. Crazy.
Wacky.
You know that this is going in Riku. That's
definitely
perfect Riku.
Yes,
card.
dude, it's so good in Riku.
The new Jace also plots as well. His second +1 exiles a non-land with mana value 3 or less from your hand, and it becomes plotted.
Yes,
I totally miss him. Is he mono blue in this set?
Mono blue. Yeah. Actually, let's just talk about Jace for a second because he's one of the planeswalkers. He's actually the good planeswalker in this set.
You don't like Oko?
Nah, I think it's pretty slow and just doesn't do a whole lot. Jace is definitely the exciting one. So Jace is blue for a planeswalker with 3 loyalty. His whole restriction is that you can't cast him during your first, second, or third turns of the game. There's obviously ways to break that, whether you're playing like Restoration of Viganjo and can just reanimate it, or you're playing Leyline of Anticipation and you just play it flash because all it says is during your first, second, or third turns. So you could play it on your opponent's second turn. Things like that. But his +1 is draw a card, discard a card. His other +1 is you can exile a non-land card from your hand with mana value 3 or less. It becomes plotted. And then -6 is until the end of the turn, whenever you cast a spell, copy it. You can choose new targets. So what he obviously wants you to do is just keep +1 and just build up a huge stack of plot cards, and then -6 and just copy all of them as you play them for free. When is Wizards gonna learn that like playing cards for free is ridiculous?
That is silly.
Yeah,
that is so silly.
You also like Jace works really, really well with all of the free suspend cards. So like if you do Jace and then you can plot Ancestral Visions, and then the following turn just play Ancestral Recall for free. So yes, John, that is the most complicated of these new mechanics. But it's got so much room. It's what Foretell should have been. Like Foretell was fun and it was fine, but having to like basically pay in 2 installments just made your turns really slow, whereas Plot is just absolutely explosive.
I don't know about you guys, but I've never foretold a card and felt good about doing it.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
The only time I do that and feel good is when it's delayed blast fireball, and that's because that card is only good if you foretell it. So, or you can cast it from exile somehow with casting.
I remember your whole vibe from you playing the Doctor Who deck that was all about foretell. Is like you seem to not really be enjoying yourself when you were playing that.
Well, it literally, like, I slowly realized, I'm like, oh, this deck is literally just, you have to pay for every card 2 times. So you get to not play. That like you just don't play if your whole deck is Foretell. But this very much solves that. So I think it's such a cool, it's basically a rework of Foretell, and it actually works. It's sick. I'm excited about
Which I love that they've gone back on in quote unquote older mechanic and have updated it to the point where it is now very playable, very powerful, and very fun.
Yeah. I'd say the only benefit that Foretell had is that Foretell cards do go into exile face down. Opponents do get to see everything you plot. Plot is face up.
Yes.
So On the one hand of secrets piles, you get free stuff, but all of your opponents, especially for commander, everyone will see it coming. So it's kind of like the suspend problem where you could set up a big, massive board, but everybody sees it coming. So if you plan to play a lot of plot, you have to be prepared for the backlash of you setting up your big, massive turn. You're going to become the arch enemy.
Yes.
I think it's cool though, because it creates a very interactive game state where people aren't unaware of what's happening. Like there is very few other feel bads that are worse than someone just completely winning out of nowhere. Right. And that's not me saying that is like my experience. That's just what I've observed. People hate. That's why people don't like combo wins. Is they
like if somebody were to play like Rainbow's Dragon Engine and were to just get 8 mana and start cascading their entire deck onto the field,
and then it's up after having done that blinks Ramos, so you reset the soft once per turn, and then you just keep. Yeah, it's like if someone did that, and
super feels bad, and only an absolute trash human being would play.
Yeah, that definitely is super fun experience for everyone, and everyone loves it. It's interesting. I just think it creates a lot of counterplay, which is good. It's like why Ward sucks. It creates a very non counterplay environment where you can't work around what your opponents are doing. How do you guys feel about you can't cast a spell during your first, second, or third turns of the game, even though it's 2 CMC? What do you guys think about that? I think that's worth bringing up and talking about it.
Yeah, I've never seen design space for sure. There's an angel that's similar. It's like 2 mana for a 4/4. It's basically a Sarah Angel that costs 2 mana, but you can't cast during your first, second, or third turns. So they've reused that.
You're very close. It's called Sarah Avenger from the original Time Spiral block.
Nice. Thank you, Oracle.
You're welcome.
So I think it's neat. Like obviously it forces you to like play fairly or play extremely unfairly. Like there's no like simple way to play this, because if this came down on turn 2, it's ridiculous. You just start plotting your hand and casting spells for free. It's a ridiculous value engine. But forcing you to play other cards to get it down early means that you're sort of like you're watering down your deck with worse cards to make this work. In a control deck, it's also just fine to play it on turn 4. Like you can play this on turn 4 and leave up a counter spell.
Right, because that's not much faster than like control decks back in the day were being able to put down stuff like Big Teferi.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that, right?
Teferi actually has the same text on it of like you played on turn 5 and untap 2 of your land. So it really costs 3 mana and says you can't play this until your 5th turn. So like, I like it. I like what they're doing here. I think they're cooking.
I think cool. My opinion, and we can pivot after this. I think if you put a 2 CMC cost on your card, you should be able to play when you have 2 mana. I don't think there should be caveats to that. That's silliness. Like if this card is too powerful for 2 CMC, make it more expensive.
Make it cost 4.
How this game balances itself. It's literally how every other card gets made. I don't understand the purpose of that, especially because it's not a legendary creature, so you can't play it in the 99. So to me, I'm like, that's a little bit silly. Like if you get this card in your opening hand and you can play it on turn 2, you should be able to. If it's broken at 2 CMC, which is what it clearly is, if it has that caveat stapled to it, then make it 4 and make it balanced. It's so easy to fix that. I don't know. That's my opinion. I'm like, that's a little bit silly. This is a dead card for 3 turns of the game every single time. So,
this has been Old Man Shakes His Fists at Cloud with Jared.
Yes. It's design space that makes no sense. Why did you do it?
Jared, you do more Brawl than I do. Can you still run Planeswalkers as your commander for Brawl?
Oh,
sure can.
I didn't. So I'm a really bad arena player. I don't know how Brawl actually works. I just know it's the closest thing to commander.
If I'm remembering, I believe you can still run Planeswalkers as your commander. There's no reason to, because there's creatures that are just better. But I don't know. This could like 2 mana Jace. 2 mana Jace at the helm could be Interesting.
Clearly have not played against Minsk and Boo in Brawl.
I haven't played Minsk and Boo.
over and over.
I never get that. It's always Atraxa and other stuff for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm the hell pod. Right. Anyway,
we're moving off topic. Let's since we're in the topic of talking about commander related stuff, we've all picked out some legendary creatures that we thought would be really cool as in this set that would make very cool new commander build arounds. Does anybody else want to start? If not, I've got one.
Yeah, go for it, John.
Go for it, brother.
Let's dive into one I think is going to be quite cool because Commander nowadays is definitely, we've had this conversation in Modern Magic before. Everyone's popping out all kinds of like utility tokens and things like that. We've had a whole set previously about clues. Everyone's doing treasures. Everyone just always has inherent cards that make tokens just sputtered out of nowhere. I want to talk about Camball, Profiteering Mayor. This is 1 white and a black for a legendary 2/4 human advisor. Whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield under your opponent's controls, for each of them, create a tapped token that's a copy of it. This ability does trigger only once each turn, so that's fine. You only get like one shot of that per turn. But then his second line of text of whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
this is like shout out Fish's Marnius deck because this is about to go absolutely bananas in there.
Oh shoot.
So let's like take a baseline here out of this. Let's say someone has done a card that lets them say like sacrifice a creature and you make a treasure off of it or something like that. Camball down and play as they create a treasure, you create a tapped treasure and that treasure on your board drains each opponent for a life and you gain a life.
I mean, Campbell just makes people stop playing Dockside Extortionist. Because, like, do you want to lose 8 life? Honestly, though, probably. I would probably still pay 8 life for a Dockside Extortionist.
The rate becomes one life for 1 mana, which is incredible.
So the Dockside Extortionist thing, that doesn't work as good as you think it does. The second line does say whenever 1 or more. So if you create all the tokens all in one go, it still will only be 1 life at a time.
Well,
they were so close to making.
Yes, but wait, hold on. What do you think is wrong about that?
Well, Dockside makes a bunch of tokens at once.
Right.
That's what I'm getting
at. You would only lose 1.
No, that's not true. You make a tapped whenever 1 or more tokens enters the battlefield, for each of them, create a tapped token that's a copy of it. So you make all the treasures.
Yeah, but you said about like losing 8 life. That doesn't happen.
It totally does. Whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, each opponent... Oh, yep, you're right. I'm wrong.
It's still good because
it's still very good.
It balances out the Dockside effect where you at least get Dockside. You get Dockside cash if you have Camball in the field, and then they get to take 1 damage and you get 1 life. So it's still good. It is a perfect counter to it if you're thinking of it as it balances the scales in your favor again.
Yeah. So
you just get 8 treasures for free and drain the table for 1.
Oh no. Yeah, so you don't get max value out of something like that when an opponent is creating a bunch of treasures all at once. But I feel like what I've dug into here, the way to build this kind of deck is play it yourself. That you're also, because Camball doesn't care how you created the tokens. If you, in any capacity, get a token, at least 1 or more, put into play it in single instances, that's when he does the draining, right? So you're playing the token strategy already as is, and then just inadvertently, as everyone else generates tokens, he'll give you a little extra value out of that as well. But if you build in pieces into your deck that are constantly on each person's turn forcing your opponent to create a token, then you create a copy of that token as well. So a card like Shadrick's Silverquill, as an example, that at combat on your turn, you choose 2, and each mode has to target a different player. You can target yourself to do the card draw and lose a life, and target one of your opponents to create the 2/1 Inkling with flying that then puts a token on their board that Camball then gives you the same token on your board. So you're kind of picking yourself for both modes, and then you drain.
Very nuts.
Or a card like...
Freaking awesome.
Yeah, or a card like Hunted Bone Brute from Murders at Karlov Manor. If you have it just enter the battlefield as is the 6/2 skeleton whatever with menace, and then it creates your opponent 2/1/1 white dogs. Then Camball then makes you the 2/1/1 white dogs, and you drain everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you see what I mean? Yeah, it's you can build this really cool deck of like you're doing tokens, but then you're also playing the cards that create tokens on your opponent's board that then you then create the same tokens on your sides. And this can be rolled together really well with just playing token synergy, sacrifice aristocrats, life gain, ETB related stuff, Zulaport Cutthroats, Blood Artists, Bastions of Remembrances, all that kind of stuff. Camball really, really helps you expedite that kind of plan a lot. I really, really think it's cool.
Thick. Yeah.
I wonder how this card is going to morph CDH, because
it's going to do some work. There's just so many treasures. I'm glad that they've kind of gone and started making some treasure hate, and also started to make treasures come in tapped. That is the way that they should be. Yes. Well, speaking of tokens and things that make tokens, I would like to talk about my new friend, Roxanne Starfall Savant.
Let's go.
Roxanne, she literally makes meteors, makes rocks. So it's 5 mana for a 4/3 cat druid in Gruul color. When she enters or attacks, you make a meteorite token that enters and deals 2 damage to any target and can tap to add a mana of any color. And then whenever you tap an artifact token for mana, you add an additional type or an additional mana of a type. So they actually tap to add 2 mana from her. It's crazy. She also works really well with treasures. The obvious thing to talk about with Roxanne is that she is a ridiculous food chain commander, because you can play food chain, you play either Eternal Scourge or Squee the Immortal. Both are in her colors. You make infinite mana, and then you can just infinitely play Roxanne and make infinite meteorite tokens to just shoot the table from the sky.
That's sick. That is awesome.
She's very cool for that. Also just works really well with things like treasure, because she makes your treasure tap for 2. So it's just another great like Gruul ramp.
Do we call that combo rock candy?
Rock candy, yes. Food chain rocks. It's great. Things like Svella Ice Shaper are really good with her too, though, which is a 3 mana 2/4 from Kaldheim that you can pay 3, tap it to make an icy manalith that taps for a mana of any color. But then for 8, you can tap him and just look at the top 4 cards of your library and cast a spell for free from among those.
That's cool.
Very sick. So again, things that are making tokens. Reckless Fireweaver is another great one in here that when an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, drains the table for 1. You get to play token doublers like Parallel Lives, Second Harvest, things like that. They get really good because all of her meteorites do damage when they enter. So it just seems great. I was not sold immediately on Roxanne. Also, as just a sidebar, the art's really, really good. There's something about it that's just very striking of having a really dark background on the art. You just don't see that. Like most Magic art, if you look at it, has a very light background and kind of gets washy. And Roxanne is just like in this galaxy, just like making meteorites.
The card art is so good for.
It's a nice depiction of like the kind of like the scenery you don't see a lot as far as like Western culture is concerned. If you've ever seen like landscape pictures before of like the Sahara, but with like the starry night sky in the backdrop, you know what I mean? Because like, we as people who live in populated nations, you know what I mean? We have light and pollution and stuff like that prevents us from seeing the full majesty of the atmospheres as is. But you go to some like desolated wasteland the Sahara or, the Grand Canyons and stuff like that, you can look up and like, wow, there it all is.
Wow. Yeah. John's out here appreciating the natural beauty of the world.
Dude, we're all trying to just appreciate that natural beauty,
That's right. Anyway, Roxanne's really sick. That would be one I'd be excited about playing.
Dude, let me talk about Riku real quick, because we've already mentioned him or them in the Discord, and they're just a really cool commander from this set. Riku is he's already been mentioned in the Magic like multiverse before. This is not the first time we've seen this card, and Riku always has to do with doubling spells or like casting multiple copies of something. This time around, they chose Riku to represent the commander for modal spells. So it's green, blue, red for Riku of Many Paths, who is a legendary creature, human wizard, 3/3. Riku says, whenever you cast a modal spell, choose up to X, where X is the number of times you chose a mode for that spell. So Riku has essentially 3 modes on it. So the way to get the most value out of this commander is 3. That there's the theme of 3 is all over this card. 3 mana, 3/3. You're trying to cast modal spells that have at least 3 modes on them so that you can get the max value from this card. The 3 things that Riku can do for having modes is exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play it. So that's good impulse draw, the actual good kind, not the kind that it goes away the turn you make it happen. And then the next mode for Riku is put a +1/+1 counter on Riku of Many Paths. It gains trample event until end of turn. So this is like a better version of prowess for Riku specifically because it's a +1/+1 counter that stays on. And then it gets trampled until end of turn. And then the last mode is create a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying. So this is just that last mode is probably the least important. So if you're not getting all 3 modes, that's okay. But if you need to protect yourself in the air, it just gives you an option to do that, which is dope.
Ooh, you're going for Voltron commander damage.
Well, you can. You absolutely totally can. And it would be a great option because the amount of modal spells in this game will give you all the protection you need for Riku. Yeah. That's not necessarily how I would probably build this because Voltron is cool, but it's the least interesting thing you could do with this commander, in my opinion. So I just picked out some cards from this set that would work well with this commander. The first one being 3 Steps Ahead. It's a blue instant for 1 blue. It has spree, though. All these cards that I'm going to mention all have spree because these are the modal cards from this set. So it's 1 blue with spree, so +1 and a blue counter target spell. So for 3 CMC, you get to counter a spell. That's awesome. For another +3, create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control. That's never bad. That's going to be amazing in this deck, especially because that'll get you access to Riku's second mode if he's on the field. So that you're getting even more value for doing this. And then the last +2 is draw 2 cards and then discard a card. So you can do that and get absolutely insane value off of this card.
Yeah, 8 mana to do all 3 of those things and then get all 3 of Riku's modes is ridiculous.
3 Steps Ahead is great, but what do you do after that? You cast Great Train Heist because this card is sick. It's 1 red to start. It's an instant again, and I think most of the spree spells are going to be instants, so I'm going to stop saying that every single time. But so its first mode that you can select is 2 in a red, untap all creatures you control. If it's your combat phase, there's an additional combat, so you just get an extra combat when you cast this. Dope. The second mode is +2 more generic mana. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain first strike. So that just is like, it makes that second combat way better. It makes your first combat way better. And the last mode is +red. Choose target opponent. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to that player this turn, create a tapped treasure token. So you just get 1 treasure token for later. I believe that's how that works. Or is that for every creature?
Yeah, so it's for each creature that deals combat damage to that player, you make a tap treasure.
So it's as good as I thought. This could give you the gas to set yourself up for a win on the next turn, or maybe like this card you could knock out a single opponent with very effectively and then have a ton of leftover mana from doing that to then go and do something else on your next turn to maybe close out the game. But specifically, this card has 3 modes on it, and it's really cool. It gives you a lot of different variated play styles to work with. And that's why Riku is so neat. It's focusing on cards that all do multiple things. So that deck can be such a toolbox.
It's such a great deck for you, Jared, because you hate linear playstyle that like you're going to have this deck is never going to play the same way twice. Like the odds of you choosing the same mode every time you play the same spell in the same scenario is going to be next to zero. So you're just going to have this like crazy interactive deck. And then like, I know you said that the third mode is on Riku is the least valuable, but like there will be games where you're not going to get there with commander damage. You're not going to get there with the +1/+1. And then all of a sudden you just go wide with birds instead.
Yes.
So like you don't have to pick which way to play this deck. You can just play a bunch of modal spells and then it will like, as long as you're paying attention to the board state and paying attention to the game, you can weave your way into playing in whatever way you want to.
Yes, it's so cool. It's just a cool freaking commander. The last spell I have picked out to throw in here from the OTJ set is Return of the Favor. It's 2 red, so it's not 1 to start. It's 2, but it only has 2 modes, and they're very cheap. This card, it doesn't have a third mode, so it's not like perfect, but every card in your 99 won't be perfect. It's still a fantastic card here.
I like this one. Yeah, I was going to talk about this later for cards in the 99.
Me too.
Sick. So the first mode on it is copy target instant spell, sorcery spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. You may choose new targets for the copies, which is awesome. That's just amazing. You can do it to your opponent's stuff. It works like the twin caster stuff, but better. It's actually better than dual caster mage because it can copy activated and triggered abilities as well. Don't quote me on that. I don't think dual caster mage can do that, but
just hits instant or sorceries. Yep.
Cool. I'm slowly becoming an oracle myself by hanging out with John.
Yes.
The second mode on this is +1, change the target spell or ability with a single target. So this is Bolt Bend. This is all those incredible red cards that we were talking about in one of our last episodes, where red doesn't get counter magic very much or good at all, but it does get a lot of redirect effects, which can be better off. The ceiling is actually higher on a redirect than a counter spell. So Return of the Favor is really cool. And that's what I got for picks for Riku out of this.
Yeah, dude, it's very sick.
Riku's so cool. I saw
even talking about. Oh, go ahead, John.
No, sorry. I saw a cool build-in idea for Riku that could work really, really well with casting the Moto spells. I saw somebody wanted to build him in with a Possibility Storm as the enchantment.
You just pick modes, and then he doesn't care if it resolves. You just pick the modes.
Yeah, so you Possibility Storm down, cast an instant that has multiple modes. The spell then gets bottomed from the storm, and then you cycle into a new modal spell that you pick new modes for, and Riku sees all of it.
That's sick.
Oh my god, Panharmonicon with that or something, where you're just doubling all of Riku's triggers.
Panharmonicon wouldn't do that.
It wouldn't do that.
But Harmonic Prodigy would.
Veyren would do it as well.
Ooh.
Veyren Voice of Duality.
That'd be kind of interesting. That'd be worth looking at.
Yeah, it's just modal spells and ways to double Riku's ability. This is sick.
This is so cool.
You can win just off Riku.
Yeah. Also, he's also a wizard, so you get to play like Flames of Anor. You get to play Harmonic Prodigy for all of your wizards and shamans, like your young pyromancer. So now you get to make like additional tokens. It's gonna go absolutely crazy, dude.
Wow. I can't wait to build this. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep us moving along then. I'm going to talk about another one here. But I'll tie this into some of the other stuff from the set. So we didn't mention it about here, but the bonus cards that you can open amongst the set itself. Yeah. So one of the bonus sheets that you guarantee get in every pack when you open Thunder Junction is they call it the breaking news sheet. It could also sometimes see as like the prosperity post. Something like that, but it is a full set of 65 different cards across different colors and things. So like most of them are instants and sorceries, but some of them are artifacts, enchantments. There's Oko, Thief of Crowns in there as well. All of these, the theme that ties them all together is that somewhere amongst the card, all of these cards have the ability to help you commit crimes. That's their theme amongst them. So you get crime enablers in every bonus pack.
Yeah.
Or in a bonus sheet of a slot, and I say. And some of these are really, really cool. They've got stuff in here like
Mana Drain,
Path to Exile, Leyline Binding, Mindbreak Trap, Reanimate, the original one, Indomitable Creativity, Abrupt Decay.
It's a ridiculous sheet.
It's really, really cool. Yeah, it's a very cool bonus sheet. That's one that you get guarantee in every pack. And then on occasion in the play boosters and the collector boosters as well, you can open the other bonus cards that are available. The Big Score. These are all set as mythics. These were going to be its own little like epilogue set thingy, but it got tied into Thunder Junction itself instead of being its own separate release. And these cards are also very, very cool. They're standard legal, but they also have some incredible staying power for like especially some commander play. So like some really cool reprints like Grand Abolisher and some wacky sacrificey stuff like Esoteric Duplicator and Territory Forge, things like that. They're all super wild. The Vault-Born Tyrant, Joseph, I know you're big about that one.
I had that one pulled up.
There's some wacky stuff in there. And this is all coming together. I promise I'm tying this together here because this bonus sheet in particular brings us to the Digifusion elephant in the room. Loot, the key to everything.
So stupid.
Yes, dude.
Yeah, so let's talk about this little guy because everyone's talking about him for a lore perspective, but I don't think there's enough people talking about actually how you play this as a commander as is. He's kind of all right. I don't think it's incredible, but he's really, really interesting. So it's green, blue, red for a legendary beast noble. So 1/2 with ward 1. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of card types among other non-land permanents you control. You may play those cards this turn. So what he's here to do is you're building up your non-land permanents other than himself, and he gives you extra impulse gas each turn equal to the amount of different types that you have. So he wants you to go like permanent wide. You want to have a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's neat. It's kind of cool. It's the idea. It can play really, really well if you synergize it with these sort of permanents that help you create permanents of another type. So like an artifact that makes you creatures or an enchantment that makes you artifacts, stuff like that. This could also be a very good home for battles as well. Battles are a permanent type. So you could play battles out from exile as well.
From
battles,
Arcadia
planeswalkers.
Yeah.
Yep, you can get all those things. But yeah, I think the best synergies that you'd be able to do with this is either caring about casting stuff from exile or playing the kinds of cards that are permanents that create you permanents of a different type. The funniest that I found in my research here in finding some cool cards for this is, weirdly enough, there's a lot of synergistic pieces from Universes Beyond products, and I just thought that was thematically so stupid with Loot, the key to everything.
Hey, he's the key to everything, dude.
He brings it all together. So something like the Lost and the Damned from the Warhammer set. It's a red-blue enchantment that makes you spawn tokens off of casting a card from anywhere other than your hand, which is exactly what Loot wants to do. So there's an enchantment that makes you creatures. Wild Magic Sorcerer from D&D. Same thing.
Fire.
Card is fire. Yeah. Again, same thing. Gives you extra damage as you cast things. Flaming Tyrannosaurus from Doctor Who. Again, same deal. Paradox. Start casting things from exile. Gets himself bigger and then just blows up. So like, I don't know. There's a meme deck in here somewhere about making Loot the key to Universes Beyond, but
I'm going to table a vote here that on our list of, you know how we always talk about Academy Manufactor and it's like every set he gets better. Same with like Sir Conrad. It's like every set he just gets better. I'm going to add Passionate Archaeologist onto that list. It just continues to get better. Every single set that comes out, I'm like, oh, Passionate Archaeologist is ridiculous in this set. So I'm tabling that we start adding Passionate Archaeologist to the checklist of, gets better this set.
Yep.
Yeah.
Loot is exactly like that as well. Yep. Passionate Archaeologist. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting.
It's ridiculous card advantage from the command zone. So it kind of fits the new era of Commander where you're in the command zone. You basically have to either have a win con or a value engine. And Loot is a really good value engine because he just rewards you for playing the game. Like,
exactly.
You don't even have to be playing specific cards like battles to make it good. Like, even just a 3-mana thing that's going to come in, it's also above rate because, I thought it was a 3/4. It's a 1/2. Yeah.
He's a little baby.
He's just a little baby.
Loot is dope. It's really cool.
It is. They're trying to do the Grogu thing. Like, they're trying to do Baby Yoda. They need a new marketable cute guy.
I'm wondering too, I know D&D just came out with like a kind of red wall themed, like everyone's a woodland creature thing. And I wonder if this is like they're about to go in that direction here.
Well, that's what Bloomborough is going to be.
That's what I'm. Yeah, that was the term I was trying to think about. They're doing that for D&D as well. I believe. And this feels like a Bloomborough card that ended up in OTG somehow.
Yeah, I have a bit of a hot take here. I feel like they should not have done the big score in this set. It feels really thrown together. It's unbelievably power crept because it's all mythics. I have gotten really upset with playing limited in the last little bit because of play boosters, making it feel like I'm playing cube every time because there's so many bombs floating around. And then like whoever opened, like all of these cards are insane in things like limited. So like if you open a big score card in your booster pack, like you're sort of just highly advantaged. So it just makes really, really swingy games. This just felt like it could have been a separate thing. Like they could have done
it. It was supposed to be. Remember, I think I just said that, right? Like
yes,
we don't know
that everybody hated to begin with.
Yeah.
Like nobody liked Aftermath. Nobody wanted another Aftermath set. This was them cutting their losses and going, well, we've already designed all the cards and it's already probably in print. So we might as well just throw it in somewhere. And it just feels so off. Like, why is loot in this set? Like Jared said, like this was meant to be something else. And you can really feel that.
Yeah, that it feels very disconnected from every other theme here. Like a cute little.
So what would your suggestion be? Would you suggest they just cut the thing entirely and just we never see these?
Either should have cut the thing entirely, or they should have made it. They should have pumped the precons for this set. They should have put these as some of the new cards in the precons. The fact that they're standard legal is ridiculous. Like none of these things feel like standard legal cards. They should not be standard legal. So
maybe Torpor, but
yeah, there's like certain things like that. But again, they could have just printed that in the main set. So this is the only piece of this set that I'm upset with, is that big score just feels very weird and very off.
I agree 100%.
But that's my hot take.
It was, I've heard other people talk about it. It's like, yeah, this was clearly there. It's just byproduct of corporate America, literally in the game. And that's okay. I don't fault them for it. If they made a product and they need to print it, like I do get that.
Yep. Well, we're here to talk about Thunder Junction, and like it or not, it's in the product.
Exactly.
So it's worth bringing up as something to bring up.
Is what it is. Well, now that we have talked about basically all of the bits of this set, let's just kind of wrap up with a few of the main set cards, maybe non-legendaries, that we're excited about. I mentioned Aven Interrupter earlier. The more that I've played with this card and the more that I've read it, it's become one of my favorites in the set because I love counterspells where like in off colors, things like Red Elemental Blast, where it's like, oh, this is a counterspell for a counterspell. So this is White's version of that now, because Aven Interrupter plots the card that it exiles, and plot is only at sorcery speed. If something is getting counterspelled of yours and you play Aven Interrupter, you've full on countered their counterspell because a sorcery speed counterspell does nothing.
That's sick.
I love that design space for Aven Interrupter. Especially in non-blue decks. Like I'm currently building a Delny Streetwise Lookout deck, and I'm looking for ways to protect Delny and protect the plan. And White does not have many good ways outside of like Mana Tithe to like deal with counterspells. So having Aven Interrupter also as a 2/2 for that deck is ridiculous. So I'm really happy about Aven Interrupter. And then the weird one that I'm excited for, I know I just went on a whole tirade about big score, but Bristlebud Farmer is so sick. It's 2 green for a 5/5 plant druid with trample that enters and makes 2 foods. And then whenever it attacks, you get to sack a food, mill 3 cards, and put a permanent card from among them into your hand. Green feels really strong to me in this deck. I also like one of my Wilson Refined Grizzly pairings is Food Fight, where I want to be making foods and then sacrificing them as things attack. So this feels tailor-made for one of my decks.
Sick. That's cool.
not to be excited about a big scorecard after I just trashed it.
It's okay.
Yeah,
I don't want
that's perfectly
to
fair. It's perfectly fair. You're allowed to be excited about the cards. You're allowed to not be happy of how they came out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks,
as our resident enthusiast about Aftermath, right? We're allowed to not like how it came out, but the cards are sick.
Yes,
100%.
I wanted to talk about. I saw this cool card draw spell that I think could be really, really neat in the colors. You'd be able to play it. It also is my favorite art of the set. I'd talk about Pillage the Bog. Is black and a green for a sorcery. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is twice the number of lands you control. Put one of them into your hand and the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. And then it also has plot for one black and a green. So if you want to try to set up you want to set it up later for when you have more lands to play, or like you have more lands down than when it's from in plot. This can be cast for free. So if you need something to dig a card out of your library, like with enough lands, this can be like, you don't get 2 cards like you do with Dig Through Time, but the amount of dig that this can give you, it'd be comparable to Dig Through Time. I feel like even casting on 2, let's say like played fairly. You got a swamp, you got a forest. This is 2 mana, go 4 deep, get 1. Those are still playable.
There's an alchemy card called Assemble the Team, which is green and a black. Look at the top third of your library and pick a card from it. And this feels like they were like, oh, that card's really sick. We need to actually figure out how to do that in paper.
Yeah. So that's really cool. As a funny one as well, just because, again, I'm the guy who likes these sort of simple removal things. I wanted to briefly bring up Shoot the Sheriff.
Yeah.
Good. So it's another one of these kind of, it's cheap removal, but has a condition for being able to remove. So 1 and a black for an instant. It destroys a target non-outlaw creature. So we've seen things like these before, right? So like power word kill that blows up a non-angel, non-demon, that kind of thing. Go for the throat, hits a non-artifact. So it's like one of those. So you have restriction, but non-outlaw is pretty broad, right? Like you might miss some rogues, because there are a lot of rogues that just happen to be very good utility creatures, or some very good commanders that pass by this, right? Like being able to not hit pirates, not hit assassins, you know what I mean? So there is stuff that you can miss with this, but it's pretty decent, all things considered. And also I thought this was really funny to bring it up here, because this is, again, like all the other Outlaw cards, it has the reminder of what Outlaws is, but it has that funny little sentence at the end of there. It is assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks are outlaws. Everyone else is fair game. It's written in the flavor text, or in the reminder, in the reminder text of the card itself. I just thought that was really, really funny.
That's cute.
Related to really funny, just one last one I think would be a really, really cool. It's one of the other ones with Spree, called Shifting Grift.
Oh yeah, that one's cool.
Yeah, blue is its casting cost, and then it has Spree. It's a sorcery, so for an additional 2, you can exchange control of 2 target creatures. For an additional 1, you can exchange control of 2 target artifacts, and for another additional 1, you can exchange control of 2 target enchantments.
This would be that heuristic study, baby.
Yeah, this is really good in multiplayer formats, because your targets that changes things around, you can make that be whatever you like. So whether you can give things to yourself and pass things over to your opponent, but then also in Commander, you could just like swap cards from 2 of your other opponents if neither of them are beneficial to you.
Yeah.
It's like your commander, go over here. Your commander, go over there. You know what I mean? People nowadays still tend to lean more towards building their decks around their commander. So as soon as you take their commander away from them, they're kind of out of options.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. You can steal commanders with it.
Mm-hmm.
Or swap 2 players' commanders or something.
Yeah, that card is very fun.
Very neat.
Those are mine.
Let's talk about Bandit's Hall real quick. It's 3 for an artifact. It says whenever you commit a crime, put a loot counter on Bandit's Hall. This ability triggers only once. each turn. It says tap and add 1 mana of any color. So it's a mana rock for 3, which isn't bad. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. And this says tap to pay 2 and tap, remove 2 loot counters from Bandit's Hall, draw a card. So hopefully every
a lot of value.
Every second turn you can just draw a card off of this, which is literally never going to be a bad thing. You're going to be committing crimes anyway if this card is in your deck, so it's just going to be happening naturally. And yeah, just the fact that it's a mana rock to help you move along in your strategy. This card is great if you're doing anything revolving around the committing a crime strategy.
Yeah.
Another cool... It's weird. I'm picking a lot of artifacts right now. Another cool one that I looked at is the Key to the Vault. That card is so freaking cool.
It's neat.
I'm not like huge on equipments, but this card is actually neat. It's 1 and a blue for legendary artifact equipment. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may exile a non-land card from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So it's essentially like putting Cascade on a creature, but it's attached to their attack or their power. So however much damage they're able to deal is how many cards you're able to see, and then you can pick from and then cast that card for free.
So neat.
Anytime you can cast anything for free is crazy. The fact this is also just gravy on top because it means you're connecting with combat damage.
Totally.
So if you can do this reliably, you're just going to be getting tons and tons of free value.
It does cost 5. Like it costs 2 and then 3 to equip. So it's pretty hefty. But if you can get around that, or if you're ramping, you don't really care about that. Like
this is one of those equipments that once you get it attached and get it working, it's going to be so strong.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be worth it to make it.
It reminds me of the reality chip a little bit, where you have to kind of like do some like setup, but you can just start getting value off the top of your library.
Totally.
Dude, the reality chip and this together would be amazing.
Oh, crazy!
You could put the
key on put the key on the reality chip. There you go.
Probably don't want to do that because it's got 0 power.
I didn't say it was good. I just said it was cool.
Neat. That's neat.
Anyways,
well, anybody have any
commander?
Anybody have any parting thoughts on Outlaws here before we wrap it on up?
Nah. I think it's cool.
Mosey on down to the ranch and hang up our hats for the night, and we've done our one last job and not doing it again. You know,
that's right.
Right. I'm so glad this exists. Right. I'm very happy that Wild West Magic has come into the game. Perfect? No. You know, we had our whole Commander episode already. We talked about this. You know, the Commander decks. Good or bad, people have vastly wild opinions on those kinds of things. Big score, the set itself, limited play. You know, it's been up and down quite a bit since this has been launched.
Totally.
But as a theme, as a product for Commander people like us, especially, this set is very, very cool. I would very highly recommend, go into this one, dig around into the set a little bit, because there's a lot to explore between the main set and all the bonus sheets and things of that nature. There is a lot to find here that has good practical purpose in a variety of decks.
So true.
Jared, any thoughts here?
Dude, I think I'm really happy with this set as a whole, even with things like Big Score and the Commander decks. Like the set is great, which is where the majority of the effort of the new cards were put. So I'm like, the effort and the quality shows where they actually put it. And to me, that matters. So I like it. I think it'll create a really fun play environment with this set. So yeah, I'm excited to just get these cards in my hands and start messing with them.
Same.
Very excited to build Riku. I haven't built a new deck and actually built it. Yeah. Played with it in a very long time. So.
Dude, you got to start a thread on the brewery on our Discord, which you can join down below.
You guys want to help me build Riku? Hop in Discord.
Yes, please. I think this set's going to age really well. I think we're going to look back in a year and I would not be surprised if booster packs of this are going for more than retail. There's so many things in here that will get better as more stuff gets printed for it, that I think we'll be looking back on this one as another Wilds of Eldraine, as another Kaldheim. Like there's so many really good stuff in here that I just think it's going to age really well. So,
and especially for like in constructed purposes, as the next standard set is finally going to be the standard rotation. So this is going to definitely be one of the sets that people will be digging into in about 4 or 5 months from now and seeing, okay, what can we play out? Yeah. What can we play out of here? Cause I just evaluating for what's currently floating about right now. Once the standard rotation finally hits, I feel like this one probably will be one of the stronger ones that'll be available within for constructed purposes.
Yeah, this will be baseline going forward. But I love it. This is a great one. It's been fun to talk about it too. Like there's been so much to dig into, and like we could have gone for another hour about cards in this set. So
yes, easily.
Very, very sick.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for Outlaws of Thunder Junction. We've covered pretty much everything we can on this. So let us know what you all's thoughts are in the comments about Outlaws of Thunder Junction, how you feel about Big Score, whatever. We're down to talk about it, have some funly conversation.
Definitely. If you made it this far into the video and you want to give us some support, give us those likes down below. Likes, comments, subscribes. It helps us out immensely. Because our subscriber count keeps growing. People like us.
And we appreciate all of you for being here, not just a number.
It's true.
It's actually crazy. The support is really cool and very heartening to see.
Yes, we feel it, and we feel all the love. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for being here. This has been the MTG Thoughtcast. We'll see you next time.